Okay. All right. All right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How about on my
Okay.
end?
Perfect.
Great,
Perfect.
great.
See this now, this microphone, does this sound better?
It does. It's a lot clearer.
Yeah, yeah. This is I don't know what they call this. This is the blue, whatever blue is.
The Blue Yeti?
Yeah, Blue Yeti, that's it.
I've got one as well, and I still can't figure out how to hook it up to either my desktop or my laptop. So I'm running off my laptop's microphones right now.
Oh, really? Well, I'm not that tech savvy, okay? But let me just tell you, all you got to do is take the USB and hook it up into the bottom into a USB port if you have a USB port.
Yeah.
And it should just be plug and play.
Yeah, it doesn't work on the. I've got the HP Envy. It doesn't work like that. So, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, then we're good to go. We're good to go. So you've been on with Dr. Ott. You've been on with ODD. You've been on a lot of shows, and I've listened to them for the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I've listened to all of them. How did you end up doing this, man?
Well, are we on right now? Are we recording right now?
This is all going to be pre-recorded.
We can go into the whole thing.
Have at it. Have at it.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Richie?
Yeah?
Hello?
Oh, come on.
Wait, hold on. Wait a minute. Are you there? All right, well, let's discuss that. First of all, going back to the history of the Christian church, of course, the salvation is by the grace of God through faith in Jesus Christ. Early on in the development of the Christian church, the Christians were preaching the gospel, okay? And many were being saved. Many Jews were being saved. That became a problem for the leadership, the Jewish leadership. And so what they understood was that they were not going to be able to stop Christianity. And the devil, being the subtle beast that he is, immediately began to send in spiritual spies, for lack of a better term,
okay,
in order to undermine the church. And part and parcel of that was this idea of Judaizing the church. That is, bringing the church back under Jewish rule, all right? Because they were losing their power and influence as Christianity was growing. And in the New Testament, there's frequent reference to this effort and frequent warnings in the New Testament regarding the threat posed by the Jews who would seek to bring Christians back under the law, okay? And if you read the book of Romans, it's clear that salvation is not by obedience to the law, but by the grace of God through faith in Jesus Christ. So it's not by works, it's by faith that one is saved. And ultimately, what happened was the true Christian church recognized this effort, and because they had the unction of the Holy Spirit, they weren't beguiled by the tricks of trying to Judaize the church. So they were completely uninfluenced. However, there were a mass of people who were nominal Christians, who were attracted by the popularity of the Christian church and the novelty and the merits of what the Christian church represented. And so as the persecution died down, what happened was there were factions of the Christian church which developed into this Jewish sort of Christianity. And this Jewish Christianity ultimately developed into what we now know today as the Roman Catholic Church. And the Roman Catholic Church is essentially Judaism for Gentiles. All right? And if you understand the nature of Judaism, when the Jews were freed from their Babylonian captivity, they brought with them the witchcraft that they learned from the Babylonians. And they inculcated that witchcraft into what we call today Judaism. And so the Pharisees were actually engaging in witchcraft, and Jesus called them out for that, okay? The fact that they had replaced the laws of God with their traditions. And those traditions were based on this Babylonian witchcraft. This Babylonian witchcraft is found in the Roman Catholic Church, okay? And that is what has been inculcated in the Roman Catholic Church. Just to give you an example, the Jewish leadership was made up of the Sanhedrin, and those were the 70 elders. And those 70 elders, okay, were the chief priests. And those chief priests would elect their high priest, and he was the 71st member of the Sanhedrin. He was the high priest. Well, that same structure is found in the Roman Catholic Church. Initially, the College of Cardinals was made up of 70 cardinals. Now, in witchcraft, language has two meanings. One, the esoteric meaning, the hidden meaning, and the other, the exoteric, the outward meaning. And, the idea of cardinals, actually, cardinal literally means chief. And of course, all cardinals are bishops who are in turn priests. So they are the chief priests of the Roman Catholic Church. And the College of Cardinals elect the high priest, who we call the Pope. So their entire structure is based on the Sanhedrin. And the Council of Trent, which involves 100 curses against Christians and Christian doctrine, that was completely controlled by the Jesuits. Now, the Jesuits are essentially a priesthood which is answerable to the Pope. All right, they are not answerable to any of the regional cardinals. They are answerable directly to the Pope, and they are the militia of the Roman Catholic Church, of the Vatican.
Wow.
And they have engaged in their purposes as a counter-reformation. All right, and they infiltrate and undermine Protestants and Christian theology. So they were in control of the Council of Trent, and what you have to understand about the Jesuits is Ignatius of Loyola was a Marrano Jew, okay? And it's not generally known, and when somebody is Jewish and they conceal their Judaism, they typically call that, the term used is a crypto-Jew.
Like John Kerry, for instance.
Pardon me?
Like John Kerry.
John Kerry's a good example.
Oh, my.
Hillary Rodham Clinton is another example. I mean, you can go on and on. And so what they do is they try to conceal their Judaism, all right, so that people don't understand who their masters are, what their real strategy, what their real purpose. They're part of a conspiracy against God and man. And so the Jesuits are a crypto-Jewish organization, and they basically control the Roman Catholic Church. And in fact, the present Pope, it happens to be a Jesuit. And the Jesuits are answerable to the Pope and the Jesuit general. But if you look at the doctrines of the Jesuit, they actually hold the Jesuit general in higher esteem and higher authority over the Pope. And the Jesuit general is typically, they refer to him as the Black Pope. Whereas the pontiff, the Roman pontiff, is viewed as the white pope. But their allegiance, their true allegiance, is to the Jesuit general. Now, the Jesuits were suppressed late in about around 1773. They were suppressed by the Vatican because of the pressure put on them by the monarchies of Europe. Because the Jesuits were in their efforts in counter-reformation, they were actually undermining the very governments of Europe. And so the political lobby, made their feelings known to the Pope, and the Pope's hand politically was forced and reluctantly suppressed the Jesuits. The Jesuits then went on a rampage once they were suppressed by the Pope. And you've heard the term Illuminati. The Illuminati organization was actually sprung up, and they were made up primarily of Jesuits. And they gave rise to the French Revolution, all right? And they attacked the Roman Catholic interests, and the French Revolution was basically an attack on monarchies and all religions. Their suppression was lifted about 50 years later, and since then they've regained much of their authority. But they're very much subversive. They've been kicked out of many countries for engaging in subversive revolutions. The theology, now understand this, that everything in life is religious. So this idea that any organization or anything you do can be secular is a myth, okay? So the idea that there's a secular government, that's a myth. Communist government, which basically believes there is no God, and then people think that's completely secular. No, their God is Satan, all right? And communism is essentially Judaism that has been brought to political power. So if you want to know what the future looks like with Jewish authority and Jewish hegemony, simply look at these communist countries like China and Russia, okay? And look at what happens when, for instance, the Bolshevik Revolution, when the communists took power, okay? That's what you're looking at. And when you're looking at communism, you're essentially looking at also Roman Catholicism, because Roman Catholicism is also very socialist and very communist if you look at their political theology, their political stance. So they're very closely aligned with the communist movement. And when you look at the political statements made by the Roman Catholic Church, they are very much socialist. So your rights are based on your affiliation with a group. Whereas in the United States is based on the Christian and Protestant view that we are made in God's image and have individual liberties as an individual. Well, the communist view is your rights are based on your membership in a group. And of course, they're trying to turn this country into a socialist communist country. And you'll notice that that's the movement. Everybody's rights are based on their affiliation with a group. Either you're black, you're white, you're male, female, sodomite. They break people down into groups and give them special privileges from the government based on that membership in that group, rather than everybody is made in God's image. Everybody has God-given rights, which flow from God. They're not privileges that flow from the government. See.
Let me ask you. What? All right, I had this question. I've read several of your books already. I've read Enemies Foreign and Domestic and Babylon the Great, and I just got The Greatest Lie on Earth. I've already got a good idea what it's involved in, but I'm going to guess. What's your opinions on the Protocols of the Elder Zion?
Well, they asked that very same question of Henry Ford. Okay. And the argument that people make against that is that they are forgeries. Well, first of all, Henry Ford said, all I know is what they say is coming to fruition before our very eyes. And so whatever you make of them, they are predictive of the future. Okay. And if you look at the history of the Protocols of Zion and how they came to light, it seems that they are in fact legitimate. And by the way, when they call them forgeries, that doesn't simply mean that they're not true. It simply means that document was forged from another document.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So they're very clever in the way they deny the legitimacy of the protocols. Okay. But I go into that in some detail as to how they came to fruition, how Professor Neelis from Russia brought them to light in his book, and how he was subsequently persecuted for having done that. I mean, if they weren't legitimate, then why did the Bolsheviks, who then became the International Communists, why did they then sentence him to prison, and based on his publication of the protocols? And they stated that they did that because of the damage he did to their movement, to the International Communist Movement, okay, which basically is laid out in the Protocols of Zion. So, yeah, their response, the Jewish response to it is sort of the imprimatur of legitimacy to the protocols.
Right. It seems like if there was nothing to it, they wouldn't have anything to say about it. They'd simply debunk it and walk away. But The very first protocol number 1, the third verse here, I don't want to make it sound like it's a biblical book or anything like that, but it says, it must be noted that men with bad instincts are more in number than the good, and therefore the best result in governing them are attained by violence and terrorization. If you don't see that happening, I mean, ever since 9/11 and even before, I don't know what to tell you. Because when Henry Ford said that this was all coming to pass, well, Henry Ford was a few years ago, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm seeing it all coming to fruition right now. Am I wrong?
Sure. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And that statement in the protocols is basically a true statement. It's a realization of the facts that under which we live. I mean, the majority of people can be led into violence, can be led into sin, and the devil knows that. And see, understand this. That is the way in which you control the populace. See, if you can degenerate the population into violence, all right, whether it be sexual violence, whether it be other kinds of assault, whether it be theft, any kind of sin, if you can degenerate the population so that they don't control their own behavior any longer, they do whatever they feel is best for themselves, regardless of the effect it has on anybody else, all right, then somebody has to step in to protect the innocent. Somebody has to step in to protect the victim. Somebody has to step in to see that justice is done. And that's where the government comes in. And so you see, when a society degenerates, then you have more government authority stepping in to keep order. See, they love chaos because in response to the chaos, the government must bring order. And that's part of the methodology, behind bringing about tyranny. See, that's the steps. Those are the steps towards tyranny. If a person is not governed, if their behavior is not governed internally, then something external, there has to be something external that governs their behavior, and that's the government. Okay, and so ultimately, their method is an all-powerful government. That's why they want people degenerated into violence, because then there's a clamor for more laws. Okay, more police protection, less liberty. See, and you can see that. You can see that every time. Rahm Emanuel said we shouldn't let a what did he call it? A disaster, a good disaster go to waste.
Go to waste.
Yeah, that's because he's clued in. He knows he's part and parcel of those people who know exactly what's happening. They create the whatever the conflict is, and they also have the solution ready to go. For example, the Patriot Act was ready to go before 9/11. They had already had a draft. They were ready to go with the response to 9/11. More security, less freedom. Okay, this is all planned out. This is all planned out.
Project for a New American Century. I mean, it literally came to pass within a year. They needed a new Pearl Harbor, and they even had the nerve to stand on top of the rubble at the Twin Towers and call it a new Pearl Harbor. They love rubbing people's faces in it. And when you show them, when you have the courage to show them the facts that don't line up, or show them the evidence that points the finger in the right direction, you're quickly and efficiently labeled an anti-Semite. I mean, right off the bat, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and that's one of the tricks they use. See, understand this: that just as in the time of Jesus, there was fear of the Jews. See, and they use that. They have tremendous power. They have tremendous authority. And that's just one of the tricks they pull, is this label of anti-Semitism, okay, to destroy somebody's credibility. So they control the media. Anybody in the media who dares mention that the Jews have control over the media finds themselves immediately out of a job. And we've seen that on several occasions. There are a couple of notable news commentators who have made mention of that just in one little vignette, and boom, they're immediately fired.
Right, like politicians as well. James Traficant had the nerve to say something, and he ended up in prison, career ruined. You know what I mean?
Yes.
These guys do not play around, and it isn't just a coincidence that any person that has a public, a public speaking, anyone that has the nerve to come out and say anything, something befalls them quickly. They don't wait very long, and no one seems to notice the pattern. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, I've been looking at your all the reviews and so forth and so on, and boy, they love to attack you, man. It's amazing. So, were you ready for that when you came into this?
Oh yeah, yeah. You know you're over the target when you catch a lot of flack.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt, without a doubt. So, in the real truth community, I'm seeing that you're getting plenty of 5 stars. People are supporting you, and your message is solid, man. It absolutely is. Um, how did you find your way from your